This unique building would make a great addition to any small downtown scene set in the 20th century. Best of all for new modelers, the kit contains just 3 parts. Welcome back to my channel, and as always, thanks to my subscribers. In today's video, I'll show you how I built and painted this model using inexpensive tools and supplies. This is a 3D printed model of a brick building which would fit nicely into any 20th century small town. The building shell is a single piece. The roof and the back porch roof are separate pieces, making painting and assembly easy. As you can see in the video, there was a small amount of printer flash that I had to remove from the rear porch mount. Once I had test fit the pieces to be sure everything fit well, I primed all 3 pieces. I used Tamiya light gray fine spray primer, but you could use Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch 2X gray primer instead. Once the primer had cured, it's time to start painting. I used pure orange as my base color. When my wife saw me using this color, her reaction was somewhat less than positive. I think her exact words were, "Are you really using that color?" But don't worry, it'll get better soon. Notice that I was pretty careful to paint just the brick. Later on, I'll be painting the concrete work and the window trim different colors. Next, I applied a burnt umber wash. Notice that I have the pure color on my palette, and I just dip my brush in water, then pick up some color and apply it to the building. This gives me a very uneven wash, which is exactly what I want. Also notice that I'm just using the water I use to wash my brushes. A little extra color doesn't hurt a bit. Here again, I'm pretty careful to apply the wash just to the bricks. Also, try not to leave large puddles of color on your model. They will likely run into places you don't want. When you get to the front of the building, switch to a smaller brush. This will allow you to apply the paint in the tight corners. Now is a good time to apply decals. You can use commercial decals, or you can print your own, as I did. The process is the same. Spray a clear gloss coat on the painted model. Apply some microset, the blue bottle, to the model. Slide the decal in position. Gently squeeze out any excess water from under the decal and allow it to dry. Apply microsol, the red bottle, to help the decal settle into the surface detail. When the decal is dry and you're happy, seal the decal with clear matte varnish. I used Dull Coat. Now it's time for a raw umber wash. This will further darken the brick color, and it will start to blend the decals into the brick background. This will make your signs look as though they have been on your building for months instead of days. Washes always get lighter as they dry, so you may have to apply more than one wash. Remember, it's easy to apply more color, but it's impossible to remove color. Be sure to let your washes dry thoroughly between coats. This allows the colors to build up in layers, and since the washes are deliberately uneven, it gives the brick surface an amazingly subtle color variation. The last wash uses burnt sienna. This will add just a bit of red and lighter tones to the previous 2 washes, which were quite dark. Finally, I dry brush some highlights using yellow ochre. Dry brushing with acrylic paints requires patience. The paint dries on the brush fairly quickly, and there is always a temptation to load the brush with too much paint. Resist that temptation. Keep your brush strokes vertical so the color is applied to the top edges of the detail. Work slowly and build up color slowly. It's easy to overdo this. The highlights should be very subtle. Next, paint the concrete and stone portions of the model. This includes the windowsills, the lintels, the front and rear porch, the building cornices, and the stone arch across the front of the building. I started with a light tan color called desert sand. If you can't find that color, bleach sand will work just as well. When you have painted all of the concrete, apply a thin wash of medium gray. This will provide the all-important color variation and add an aged look to the concrete color. I added a raw umber wash to the front and rear porches to give them a dirty appearance. Finally, I added some highlights to the stone arch by dry brushing some vintage white along the tops of the stones. Again, use restraint here. You're just adding highlights. Finally, it's time to paint the wood trim. You can use any color that appeals to you, but personally, I love shades of green alongside red brick. Here are some of the greens that I have used in the past. For this building, I will use clover. There's no great secret to painting trim. Just use a fine brush, rest the model on a solid surface, and rest your hand holding the paintbrush on a solid surface. Use the very tip of the brush to spread paint into corners and take your time. I find that I can only paint 2 or 3 windows at a time. After that, I start to get shaky, so I take a short break. Once all of the trim has been painted, it's time to apply a wash to the trim. Select a color which is slightly lighter or slightly darker than the trim color. You want to create some subtle color variations. If your wash is darker, hold the model upside down so the dark wash flows to the top of the trim. If your wash is a lighter shade, hold the model right side up so the wash flows down. In general, colors are more intense up high where they are less exposed to direct sunlight. I painted the edges and underside of the back porch overhang using the same trim colors. When you are finished painting your building, spray the entire building with a clear matte lacquer. My preference, again, is dull coat. Now it's time to add the window glazing. Any clear plastic material will work. Evergreen sells clear sheets in several thicknesses. Use any you have on hand. If you're buying, I'd select the 5/1000 sheets. You can get creative here. The clear plastic film on cake or donut boxes make great windows as well. I cut the plastic to size. Then I attach the glazing to the back sides of the windows using PSA adhesive, but you can use canopy glue if you prefer. I would avoid styrene cement because the windows on this model are not perfectly smooth on the back surface. Liquid cement can wick onto the window surface and cause a mar in the window. Now it's time for the roof. Cut strips of plain white tissue paper, about 3/4 inch wide. You'll need enough to cover the large roof and the porch roof. Dilute some white PVA glue, like Elmer's, about 50-50 with water, and spread it evenly across the roof. Lay the tissue paper strips along the roof, starting at the bottom edge and working toward the top, overlapping the strips by about 1/16 of an inch. When you're done, use the brush you used to spread the glue to flatten the strips and to work out any air bubbles. When the paper is completely dried, about 24 hours, paint the roof a very dark gray. Do not use black. True black is almost never found in the real world. I use a color called wrought iron. Now you can glue the porch roof in place using super glue. Next, cut 2 rectangles of black construction paper to fit diagonally across the interior of the building. Then lay them on top of one another and cut a vertical slit through both, halfway along the long side. Then slip the 2 cuts together to form a cross and insert this in the building as shown. This will create a view block so the viewer can't see through the entire building from any angle. Set the roof in place, but do not glue it just yet. And here is my building so far. This is certainly good enough to display on any model railroad, but I want to add a few final touches to add interest to the model. In my next video, I will add some extra details, a chimney, some roof vents, and a set of electric meters. I will also add weathering effects to the building walls and roofs. Then I will add some signs to the windows on the front of the building. Finally, I'll fabricate and install a simple interior that will be visible through the front windows, along with some interior lighting. In the description below this video, you'll find links to many of the products and tools I've mentioned. I love to read your comments and to respond to your questions. If you want to see more videos of this type, be sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.